Welcome to our organization meeting for the Glen Rock Board of Education. We will begin this evening with calling the roll. Ms. Carasella.
Here.
Ms. Carr.
Here.
Mr. Corey.
Here.
Ms. Rundell.
Here.
Ms. Scarpelli.
Here.
Ms. Stevenson.
Here.
Ms. Rundell, will you lead us in the flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our adequate meeting notice in accordance with PL 1975, Chapter 231, notice of tonight's meeting was mailed to the Record and the Ridgewood News on January 3rd, 2023. Notice of this meeting was also mailed to the Borough Clerk and was posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education in the Administration Building on the same date. Copies of the procedures in effect for regular board meetings are available for the public at tonight's meeting. Mr. Corey, will you please read our mission statement?
Of course. The Glen Rock School District, founded on principles of education in partnership with a supportive community, provides an exceptional education to all students to cultivate resilient, responsible, and engaged global citizens.
Thank you. Our statement to the public: oftentimes it may appear to members of our audience that the Board of Education takes action with very little comment and in many cases by unanimous vote. Before a matter is placed on the agenda at a public meeting, the administration has thoroughly reviewed the matter with the superintendent of schools. If the superintendent of schools is satisfied and the Board of Education president concurs that the matter is ready to be presented to the Board of Education, it is then placed on the agenda at the next Board of Education meeting. The members of the board work with the administration and the superintendent of schools to ensure that they fully understand the matter. After the committee of the whole approves the matter, it is placed on the agenda for action at a public meeting. In rare instances, matters are presented to the Board of Education for discussion at the same meeting that final action may be taken. We will now proceed with the organization of our board. We will start with reading into the minutes the results of the November 7th, 2023 election as certified by the Bergen County Board of Elections. Our prevailing candidates for three-year terms were Damali Robinson with 1,893 votes, Edmund C. Hayward, who received 1,998 votes, and Elizabeth Calvez, who recorded 1,985 votes. At this time, we will swear our new members into their elected seats. Candidates, please step forward to the podium. Dr. Robinson, Mr. Hayward, and Ms. Calvez, you are elected to a full three-year term. I will now recite the oath of office. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States and this state,
and to the governments established in the United States and this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Okay, we will continue. I do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education,
I do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of Board of Education,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability.
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. At this time, Dr. Robinson, Mr. Hayward, and Ms. Calvez will be entered onto our roll call as present and will be eligible to vote on all items on the agenda this evening. We are now up to the point where we will take nominations for President of the Board of Education. Ms. Rendell?
I'd like to nominate Dr. Damali Robinson.
Thank you. Dr. Robinson has been nominated for President of the Board of Education. At this point, we will take a vote. Ms. Calvez? Ms. Carasola?
Yes.
Ms. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Rendell?
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson is elected the president of the Glen Rock Board of Education. At this point, I will turn the meeting over to Dr. Robinson.
That was quick. Thank you. Just pulling up the. Okay. All right. So at this point, we'll be taking nominations for vice president. All right. Okay. Mr. Hayward.
I will nominate Sinead Rendell as Vice President.
Okay. Noted. All right. Will you call roll?
Ms. Calvez?
Yes.
Ms. Carasola?
Yes.
Ms. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Rendell?
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Ms. Rendell is elected Vice President of the Board.
All right. For the reorganization resolutions, do we have a motion to discuss the R items? All right. Yes, thank you. Ms. Scarpelli, seconded by Ms., okay, Mr. Corey. All right.
Why can't we use our first names?
I know, that's why.
Robert's rules.
All right. All right. It's weird. It's such a simple thing, but, you know, it is strange for me. All right. So we have our R items. Any discussion for our items? Ms. Carr?
Yes, hi. In R8 on the calendar, you have April 22nd as a meeting, and that's the second night of Passover. I checked the calendar unless I'm wrong. What? I know, but
But it's an evening, the holiday does not start on.
yeah, it starts on the evening.
So it's
Starts
a.
the first,
It doesn't.
the first 2 nights. The evening of Monday, April 22nd is when it starts. If everybody is fine with that, I'm not going to be here.
I think we could change it.
I think you can change it. Yeah.
I mean, I looked at the calendar, we can have a back-to-back, or,
I think we will, I mean, we can look at the dates and see if there's a way that we can change it. I just have to be able to look and.
yeah,
and
so you
that's
have a meeting on April 8th and April 22nd, so it could be the 29th, but then we'll have one back-to-back with the 6th.
Yeah, okay, we can check with the administration and see what we can do.
Thank
for
you.
that. We'll check
Wait till we change it.
offline. Thank you. Any other discussion items for the R items? Okay. At this time, I would like to,
We have to read the code.
yeah. At this time, I would like to have us read our board member statement of ethics, and we'll just go around the room. So as a member of the Glen Rock Board of Education, I state my intention to abide by the code of ethics for school board members as follows. A, I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures. Mr. Hayward?
I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children regardless of their ability, age, race, creed, sex, or social standing.
I will confine my board action to policymaking, planning, and appraisal, and I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted with those who will be affected by them.
I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well-run.
I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and will make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board.
I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups or to use the schools for personal gain or for the gain of friends.
I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information and, in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its school.
I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer.
I will support and protect school personnel in proper performance of their duties.
I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and will act on the complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution. Thank you. If everyone would sign it and then pass it to up. Thank you. Additionally, thank you. Additionally, I would like also to discuss our 19. So appointment of a New Jersey School Board Association legislative delegate. We do have one annually. Is there any interest in?
I nominate Karen.
And you'll second? All right, excellent. Do you accept the nomination, Karen? All right. Do you have any?
Karen Stevens?
I know. Do you have any questions about the role that maybe we need to?
Is there a clearly defined role somewhere on this position? Or would I have to reach out to school boards? Like, am I supposed to go to the state delegate meetings? I mean, it's kind of unclear.
I do want to say I read it in our bylaws. Just scan our bylaws. There might be
In there? Okay.
in there.
Okay, but we'll definitely find out and discuss that with you. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, thank you, Karen. Okay, can we call the roll for our items, please?
Absolutely. Before calling the roll, I'm just going to note that we have amendments on R8, which is the meeting dates, which we will update based upon the comments from this evening. And on R19, Karen Stevenson has in fact been selected by our board president. Are both of those revisions okay with Ms. Scarpelli and Mr. Corey?
Yes. 'Cause we-
Thank you. Okay, we will now call the roll. Ms. Calvez?
Present.
Ms. Carasola?
Carousel, yes.
Ms. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Rundell?
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to our first public comments of the night. This is for agenda items only. The meeting will open at 7:15. Please state your name and your address. And you have 3 minutes. All right. All right, seeing no comments, we will close our first set of public comments at 7:15. And Dr. Charleston? Okay, no report at this time. Can we have a motion for our G items? Ms. Carr, seconded by Ms. Carosella. Any discussion for our G items?
I just want it noted that I'll be voting no on G2. I publicly stated that I don't support the full week off in November, so that's my reasoning for not voting for it. But obviously, if it's the majority, so.
Okay, thank you. And again, this is, a draft calendar, so it'll be, I'm sorry, G2, not G3. You're right. Thank you. G3 is draft, G2. All right, thank you.
I'll just say on G5 that I'm excited that we're welcoming Jana Lee Consulting in to do these workshops on responsive teaching. I think it's a critical practice in just giving our teachers those tools that they need to, hopefully prevent classification by addressing issues early on with early intervention. So excited to see that.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. Noted, G2 and G3 for you. All right, we can call roll barring no other comments. Okay. Mr. Canales?
Ms. Calvez,
Yes.
Ms. Carasola,
Yes.
Ms. Carr,
No on G2 and G3, sorry. But otherwise, yes.
Mr. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Hayward,
Yes.
Dr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Rendell,
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I need a motion to discuss our B items. All right. Ms. Stevenson, seconded by Mr. Hayward. Any discussion or questions regarding our B items? All right. If we can call roll?
Ms. Calvez,
Yes.
Ms. Carasola,
Yes.
Ms. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Hayward,
Yes.
Dr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Rendell,
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, this brings us to our personnel resolutions. I need a motion to discuss. All right. Sharon Scarpelli. Ms. Carr. All right, any discussion items? Nope. All right. Okay, yes.
I just want on P4 to thank the teachers for stepping forward and being mentors for our newer staff. It's always good to have our, seasoned teachers looking out for our newbies. So thank you.
Very important, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I'm just excited to see our old student council rep, Katie, taking a job while she's back from school.
Awesome. All right. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Calvez,
Yes.
Ms. Carasola,
Yes.
Ms. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Hayward,
Yes.
Dr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Rendell,
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. All right, I need a motion to affirm the decision on our HIB resolution. Ms. Carr? Ms. Scarpelli? All right, and roll call, please.
Ms. Calvez,
Abstain.
Ms. Carasola,
Yes.
Ms. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Hayward,
Yes.
Dr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Rundell,
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. And this brings us to our second set of public comments. Please state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes. Go ahead. And we have 7:20 start. You can push the button? Just one time, and it'll turn green. Perfect.
Hi, my name is Gavin Mealy. Thank you in advance for hearing me out. Tonight I'm here to possibly, hopefully help myself, but also to help future students in need. To start off, this time last year, I thought that I was really interested in studying business because I think it was just because my dad's in business and my brother's studying it, but I've kind of known that I want to study neuroscience. So I decided to take AP microeconomics because that's what I thought that I wanted to study. And after being in the class for probably a couple of weeks, I realized that it wasn't the best option for me, and I decided to drop it. And I followed all the right protocol. First off, I started with Miss Jones, who we all know is to drop the class and get into another AP class instead of just going into another option or another class that I wasn't interested in. I wanted to fulfill my my abilities and do push myself to be the best I could be. So I started with Miss Jones, who, as we all know, is not here anymore, and she couldn't really help me much. She told me that my best option would be to go to Miss Daniels, so I went to Miss Daniels, who told me that she couldn't help me, who then told me that my only option would be to go to Miss Girlando. Then went to Miss Girlando. Miss Girlando told me that she would not be able to help me, and that the only person that would be able to help me would be Mr. Van Nest. So I reached out to Mr. Van Nest on October 30th, explaining to him the issue in depth, requesting a meeting, hopefully. I let a respectable amount of time go by. I think it was 2 weeks, and I sent out a second email because I didn't get any response, along with visiting his office not once, twice, three times. Each time someone came out, told me that they would relay my message and that he would reach out to me soon. Each time it never happened. The fourth time, the teacher actually called down and said, I have a student here who wants to meet with Mr. Van Nest. And then finally, my mom emailed, and it took a couple of weeks to get back to her. Then finally we had a meeting, and basically after all of these meetings, and I also,
I emailed Dr. Charleston, and then we ultimately wound up having a meeting with Dr. Charleston, Ms. Daniels, and Ms. Girlando.
And what I was told there was that if they made the exception for me, then they would have to make the exception for every other student. And I'm basically here to just wonder why that.
But what did you do? You found out.
Oh, but sorry, I before doing meeting with all these teachers or meeting with all these meeting with everyone. Sorry, I'm really stressed out. Meeting with everyone, not normally like this. Before meeting with everyone, I realized that it would fit into my schedule seamlessly. I met with the teacher herself. She told me that she would love to have me in the class and that there was room available, so it would fit into my schedule seamlessly. And not to mention, AP Human Geography is Glen Rock's only half-year course. I have not missed any summer work. I can still sign up for the AP test, which is one of the only rules as to why I wouldn't be able to get into an AP class. I can still sign up for the AP test. And in general, I'm just here because I don't want to sit in another option period or another free period or go home when the clock hits 1:54. I want to stay here and I want to learn more. And at the end of the day, if I can take this AP, then it opens up another spot for me to take another AP next year. And as we all know, getting into college is definitely not easy, and I don't want to miss out on any opportunity whatsoever to be the best as possible. And not only I hope that you guys can help me, but I hope that future students in the past aren't just told that if one person is helped, then everyone else has to be helped, or what was the other reason that they wouldn't be able to keep track of their roster. But
Thank you.
I don't know, at the end of the day, all I wanted to do was take another AP class and keep learning and be the best I could be, and I was told no multiple times after meeting with 5 people.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you. Have a good night.
Are there any other public comments? All right. Barring no other comments, public comments number 2 is closed at 7:25 PM. All right. Old business. Under old business, we have our pre-K expansion grant for discussion. And we don't need a motion for that. Nope, we can just go right into our discussion.
Yes. So first of all, congratulations to Dr. Robinson and Ms. Rendell. Happy New Year, everybody. Hope everybody had a lovely winter break and holiday season, and I'm happy that I did not have to call snow day this weekend, but maybe we'll get an opportunity to use them this year. We're going to talk a little, really more in depth tonight about the pre-K expansion grant. I have Dr. McKay here. Mr. Van Ness and Mr. Canellis can also jump in at certain times if they need to. And just kind of talk about what the grant is, and then we'll go through all the information we have. So first of all, the history is like, how did we get here? As the board is aware, there was an opportunity to apply for a grant. That's been a board goal to always to apply for grants and to bring in outside resources. This was kind of a hybrid between like a state grant and more of like a competitive grant. But regardless, we got it. And so what the grant does is the total cost of the project would be $2.174 million. The district cost would be $1.3 million, and then the state share would be $870,000. So it's a 60-40% split on the grant. What we looked at was creating 3 classrooms here in the high school, middle school for preschool programs. So we would, in the little theater, as we call it, would have 2 preschool integrated classrooms, which would be full day, and then 1 preschool disabled classroom, which would also be full day. But I think before we get into the specifics, I'd like Dr. McKay to kind of explain the history of this program and how we got here, because these programs didn't exist prior to our arrival. So I think it's a good idea to kind of get the genesis of how this came about.
Sure. So for the school year of 2021, that's when we began developing our autism programs, namely. So that school year, we planned for the opening of our K-2 autism program and a preschool disabilities class, of which does and did house, for the most part, students with autism. Just so everyone is aware, in the state of New Jersey, preschool disabled, there's only one classification, and that is preschool disabled. So all of our preschool classes are titled preschool disabled. They are not necessarily autism specific. Just so you have that awareness. So our autism program opened, our full-day preschool program opened. They were both very successful. The following year, which was 22-23, we had to expand our autism program to include the 3 to 5. Our young learners were growing, and so our autism program expanded with that. And so now that brings us to present day, and we're looking at expanding now our preschool program. And this has been a discussion with many people over the course of my short time here, is the fact that originally when I first started, the only preschool program that we have is, and we still currently have, is 2 half-day programs, which are preschool disabled. So students can come either in the morning, those are typically our youngest learners at age 3, and then in the afternoon, age 4. The hybrid of that, where the full-day preschool program comes in, is that it does provide services for most of our preschool students with autism. However, that is not necessarily a criteria for a student to enter that program. In order to enter that program, students would perhaps need ABA, which is a specific type of methodology, but also we look at a variety of other factors to determine eligibility and the appropriateness of students entering that program. So just to recap very quickly, the current programs that we have, we run one full-day preschool disabled class, that is the class at Coleman, and then we run 2 half-day preschool disabled classes, and they are housed at Central School. And so with the application and acceptance of this grant, it would enable us to grow that program and reach and provide services to more students. So as Dr. Charleston had mentioned, it would allow us to continue with our preschool, our full-day preschool disabled class, and then we would take the 2 half-day classes and we would expand them to 2 full-day classes, and we would incorporate general education students into both of those programs, increasing the amount of students that we can service and also benefiting the special needs students that are currently there. I personally also think that the inclusion model also benefits the general education students. It's just an overall program, and then all of those preschool programs would be housed in the same location, and it would give them access to each other, really. So that's a very general synopsis of what we currently have and what it would then allow us to have.
Thank you, Dr. McKay. And just to add on to that, so the 2 full-day preschool integrated classes would serve up to, I think it was 15 students total. The ratio between special education students and regular ed students is there's no hard and fast number.
Yeah, so the very interesting thing, and it really is interesting considering that special education, we operate by code, but preschool, for our youngest learners, there is very little mandated in code. So what we have found is that the best way to begin planning would be to base numbers off of programs that are essentially run by the state of New Jersey. And so that number would be 15. I'm not quite sure that upon opening these potential programs, we would allow it to even get that high at first. But of course, over the time span of years, it could certainly grow. But we would try and balance the amount of special education and general education students in both of our integrated classes, keeping in mind, of course, the fit and the overall number and what would be appropriate to start these programs.
So just to pivot a little bit, just what's currently in the basement little theater, our middle school electives. So we have one teacher in there teaches semester-based courses, advanced acting, which is I think is our grade 8, dramatic storytelling and improv, which is grade 7, and creative dramatics, which is grade 6. So we've identified and spoken with that teacher to relocate to a classroom near the music wing, which would be able to serve all of those purposes, and actually has some of the apparatus that the room was originally designed for, believe it or not, was a little bit, had drama as well. So we're able to relocate them. That teacher is aware of that. Some of the specifics, we looked into the playground. There really is no necessarily requirements for like certain types of apparatus or things that have to be in the playground, but we're looking at off of Hamilton Circle. We would enclose it with a matching exterior matching fence that Mr. Canellis has worked at with our architects, which would match the brick that we have in the building outside. It would be 30 by 30. It would be toys, not apparatus, so really small movable toys. The floor would be like that rubberized material I think that we have at Bird. In terms of,
I just want to know, visualize where this will be. So it will be the empty circle where there's grass and there's like where the flag
where the digital
is?
marquee is?
Where?
From the
Oh, in
digital
the
marquee
front of the
inside,
building,
yeah.
along,
At the end
along
of the
Hamilton,
circle.
Along, what is that, Harristown Road?
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thanks.
There's an entrance right there where it goes right into the theater, and that's where it would be right off of that entrance. Our students, our pre-K students would be able to have specials here in the high school, middle school, so they'd be able to leave their classrooms for music, for art, for phys ed, and the media center, which are the ones they currently have. So they're not confined to their classrooms all day. We want to start a couple of programs here in the high school. We want to start what we're calling a preschool partners program, where our older students can work with our pre-K students in sort of work with them in some of these specials in particular. Is something that we're looking at offering. We also want to start a child development class for high school students. Things that exist right now, for example, at Coleman as our reading buddies, I think with fourth graders. So we would like to keep that program, but have reading buddies. Could be with sixth graders, it could be with our high school students. The school day, the students would come after. It would basically run the same hours they run now. The students would come after the high school, middle school students arrive, so around 8:30, and they would dismiss around 2:30-ish. The staff that would be here, so we would have the 2 existing teachers, and we would need to hire 1 additional staff member for the program. Your paraprofessionals, they're already, your students that are coming in that have IEPs will come with a paraprofessional, so you have that cost regardless, right? So it's just the additional teacher. The principal would be the high school, middle school principal, Mr. Orlando, but obviously, just like Dr. McKay does now, very active in our programs down there. But still, they would report to the principal here. And I think you have some schools lined up to visit.
So currently, I do have visits set up for Westwood and Paramus. We also have opportunities to visit Fairlawn, Cresskill, Northern Valley, Demorest, Old Tappan, and then Pascack Valley Regional.
The board can consider if you wanted to charge tuition to offset the costs for regular education students. And looking at other districts that have preschool integrated programs, they do charge tuition, but it varies. Some are small and some are upwards of $10,000 per year. You can decide to offer a discount to staff. When we were discussing this program, some unnamed administrators who have children who would fit into this program said that they would jump at the chance to send their kids to here and pay a tuition. So that's just anecdotal information. It will not impact. And by the way, you also would probably have to offer a lottery system anyway for regular ed, assuming that we would get a high number of regular ed students to attend the program. Will not impact community school. We've had several conversations with community school. They also can offer before and after care here in the high school if needed. There are some questions about, and Dr. McKay will get into this momentarily, but about if we take the students out of the elementary schools, would they still be able to get back there for maybe there's some assemblies or things along those lines? And the answer is yes. We have a bus. We'd be able to take the kids back and forth as needed. And Dr. McKay's going to turn it over to you again.
So overall, I'll discuss most of the pros that we feel this expansion would provide the district, and that is age-level peers for all of our youngest learners, a full-day program coming from 2 half-day programs. We're servicing a larger amount of students. It is a possible tuition revenue. It's a space that is, additional spaces are created at both of the elementary schools. The preschool teachers themselves will be able to collaborate with one another, because right now they are in 2 separate spaces. And we feel as though, the spaces that those 2 classrooms are leaving behind would then provide other opportunities for growth within those schools based upon whatever it is the needs are at those individual schools. Many of the concerns that we tossed around or were brought to us, for the most part, are logistical concerns, and I totally understand and respect those concerns. There hasn't been anything that we wouldn't necessarily be able to work through, I don't believe. For example, the question came up about assemblies. There are a variety of options with that. We most certainly could bus the students to really now actually any 4 of the elementary schools that were offering an appropriate assembly. Of course, we could bring certain assemblies into the preschool class if they so choose and if there are things that are appropriate. I know that there was also concern regarding just teacher collaboration with colleagues outside of the preschool or faculty meetings, professional development, and all of those things are not set in stone to the point where, we're having a faculty meeting here at the high school and they must attend that. I think that that can be very fluid. If there are things that are appropriate for them to attend here, they do so. If there are things that are appropriate for them to attend elsewhere, they go. If there are things that are happening from a special services department or strictly just a preschool department cohort, we spend faculty meeting or department meeting time doing that. I would like to look at this from the lens of we really will be very reasonable with some of those concerns and those requests. We certainly don't want to, force teachers into a certain, professional development that might not be appropriate for them. I think that we can look at it from a very, just logical and reasonable lens. And any other concerns that may come up that parents, staff, whomever may have, I do feel confident that we could work through it.
Just a couple more things. One is, this is not an uncommon thing whatsoever. Dr. McKay has listed several schools that there'll be, 2 they're definitely visiting, and other ones that they could. I've been a principal in 2 high schools, and we've had elementary students in there, and they're both 3,000 kids. So, I've been in it, and I've been ones that don't. So I think that the program itself will work. The other thing that Dr. McKay touched upon is that I think this is a cost-effective way. This is the bottom part of the reason we always do what's best for kids, but this is a cost-effective way to gain 2 classrooms in the elementary school. Mr. Canales and I reached out to the architect and asked them if they were just to do like 2 classrooms or 4 SGIs that would create 2 classrooms at Coleman. What would that cost? So again, just 2 regular classrooms or 4 SGIs. The new cost is $4.3 million. So you're looking at getting those 2 classrooms for a cost of $1.3 million. You're getting $860,000 grant, and you're expanding your program and offering more opportunities for kids. I see it as a really good opportunity. So the timeline. If we have consensus, Dr. Robinson, after tonight, would be for the board to accept the grant at the January 22nd meeting. We'd go out to bid late spring. Demo would start late summer, early fall with construction throughout that school year. And then we would start the program, we welcome students in September of 2025. I'm happy to try to take your questions or any comments. Dr. Robinson?
Any questions? Ms. Carr?
Thank you, everybody, for your diligent work. I work in a school that has pre-K and pre-K integrated, pre-K with, the pre-K disabled students, so I'm very familiar with how it works. And my concern is not the program itself, it is the logistics of it. So by law, I have a few questions. They don't have to be answered tonight, they might be able to. Aren't we supposed to have an aide for every certain amount of students in a pre-K classroom?
So for every preschool class, you need at least 1 para in a preschool disabled class. And then once it hits 9 to 12 students, you need 2. So
Okay.
right now in our half-day programs, we actually staff it proactively, and from the beginning, we always have 2 paraprofessionals in our.
So that would continue, because you did mention the one-to-one.
Yep.
Put that aside, because
Sure.
that's, okay. So you're still going to accommodate the others, okay.
Yes.
You answered the lottery. How does the cost play into future budgets? I remember sitting at long-winded meetings for when we expanded the kindergarten program from half-days. I mean, they were very long debates. It wasn't one night. And we were told that it wasn't going to cost anything. Well, it wound up costing. Sharon can attest to that. It wound up costing the district. So I need to be sure, because what I'm seeing is you're hiring one more teacher, but now you can hire 2 more teachers who are replacing those rooms. So that, correct. So I need to know how that's going to play into our budgets, you know,
I think they're two separate things. So the board's not committing to adding teachers to Coleman, right? We're saying that's a possibility, that's an option that the board would have. And that would come through a regular budget process in 25, 26. For this specific grant, for this program, you would need 1 additional teacher. And then there would be soft costs, which would be
yeah, the supplies and everything.
yeah, supplies and stuff,
Got-
but in
I-
terms
I-
of which is 70% of your budget is your staff, right, overall in the district, so you're looking at 1 additional teacher. If the board in the future, because you did this, wanted to add 2 teachers to the elementary schools because you wanted to reduce class sizes, I see it as separate. I don't see those as related.
Well, they might
Because
be-
you're addressing
Yeah,
that. Because
no,
we
I
could do
know,
that
but
now,
it's-
right? Because we could put art and music on a cart at Coleman right now, right? And then create 2 classrooms and hire 2 teachers because the board says our class sizes are too big. But the board may say, well, we don't want to do that. We want to keep art and music as best we can in their own
But we're-
areas.
Right.
But the board says our class, we're still growing and that you want to reduce class sizes. So that would be an opportunity for the board to say at that time, in September 25, now we have 2 empty classrooms, hire 2 more teachers like we just hired 4 this year.
Correct. Right, so it is a possibility, but it's
Yeah.
not possible. So what you're saying, just so I understand, is not a conversation that we're ready to have for 24, 25. It would be a conversation we would have for 25, 26.
25, 26, yeah, if the board wanted to add classes, but you're going to when we come to the budget this year, we're going to be sharing that we believe we need additional staff because we're growing.
Correct.
That would be the same process in the future.
Totally understand that it's
Yeah.
2 separate subjects,
Yeah.
but I just want to make sure that we as a board are understanding that this does open up the possibility of adding staff to future budgets. That's my point. It had nothing to do with combining the situations now, but because because it's presented to us 2 extra classrooms, that the board has to be aware that that does open up the possibility of budgetary implications. Thank you. Okay, and then Dr. McKay just brought up logisticals, and I do like the idea of the busing back and forth to assemblies. This is silly, but this is what goes through my head. We have a mini bus. You're talking about possibly 45 students. We would have to make 2 trips.
Yeah, so I feel pretty confident that it won't be 45 students.
You never know.
You don't certainly, but I am going into this with the same mentality as I did with opening up the autism programs. I want the programs to be strong and solid and created with fidelity. I certainly don't want to overload a space or teachers with too much too soon, because the change in the transition will be enough. We, of course, have to service the students of whom are coming to us who have special needs, and we will certainly address those needs and have an appropriate program for them. So 45 might be exaggerated. I do feel as though the bus can accommodate enough, bearing in mind that perhaps not all 3 of the classes would even attend a certain assembly.
I just need to
Sure.
think.
Yep.
I appreciate your answer. The only other thing that I'm going to ask is, as a trustee who's voting on a space, I need to see the space so that I can, in my head, know that what I'm going to subject future students to, I'm comfortable with the space. So I would like to make an appointment to see the space.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rendell?
I don't actually have a question for you, but I do have a statement. So first, I like how many different groups of students this benefits. Typically, when we do a project, it will only hit a building or two, or it will only be focused on a specific population of kids. This one positively impacts every level of our students. So I love that. I also love how many problems this project solves. Some of the highlights were that, like, they are gonna get a brand-new facility for them, for their age. No, I guess Hamilton has it a little right now, but that's not something we get in Glen Rock. So I love that for our preschool disabled students, and we get general education preschool students. I love that also. And I do really love the idea of opening up classrooms, because no matter what we decide as a board to use it for, having them is priceless. So I'm still a little shocked we even got this grant, and I think it would be short-sighted if we turned down such a large sum of money for something that impacts the district so much. I also really like how student-focused the project is. So I'm in full support. Thank you, Dr. Charleston and Dr. McKay.
Thank you, Ms. Rundell. Ms. Carosella.
I'm sorry, can you just elaborate a little bit more on the inclusion piece? Because I actually think that's great, and you kind of just said it really short. But I know it benefits the disabled children because it gives them the least restrictive environment, but that's also good for the mainstream's trying the wrong word. Children, because it, builds empathy and working with others. But I'm not an expert, so can you
Sure.
just share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I can share a little bit about the pros for both populations. So for special ed, not only it gives them access to their gen ed peers, but it also provides them strong peer models. But on the gen ed side, I think it provides opportunities for students to learn at a really young age that we need to celebrate everyone's different abilities, and that, everyone comes to the table with their differences, and it's all good. And I think it allows students at a very, very young age to be exposed to a lot of different types of people, and I think that that's really nice. I also think that it would provide opportunities, perhaps even for some of the gen ed students, even as young as preschool, to take on some leadership roles, of course age appropriate, but it would allow them some opportunities, even though it could be quite small, but opportunities for that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, sorry.
Hi. So I have a couple of questions. There was made reference to them participating in specials, music, and art. Where would that take place? Would it be,
Be in high school, middle school.
so they would be walking through the high school, middle school hallways? Sure. Okay, to get to the art room, and it would
It
be
could
the
be
high
vice
school?
versa. They could bring them in, but I don't see why they wouldn't walk high
No,
schools. Yeah.
my only concern with that is when they're currently working through an elementary building, they're seeing elementary type of messaging on the walls. They're not going to see that as much here because it's not their age, right? It's a different age group.
So I did the walk from their classroom to, if they went to home ec, if they went to PE, music, for the most part, they would access only the middle school, which just by default, the things on the walls are slightly more elementary than, say, perhaps the high school. Even still, it's a lot of things that are much more artistic rather than academic. And in that sense, photography, picture, the middle school does door decorating a few times during the year. So it's not as academic as you would imagine, like, say, walking through a high school, because for the most part, they would only walk through the middle school.
Okay, and the teachers that would be teaching them would be the current middle school, high school, so we'd work that in their schedule. I'm assuming they would be, I shouldn't assume, but I'm saying that the students from pre-K would probably be transitioning to that classroom at a different time than the rest of the student body, because I've been here in the hall, in the middle school, high school, it's quite loud and quite congested. So I guess how logistically would you work the teacher's schedule with it being not the same schedule as what's running with the middle school, high school? How do you foresee that?
So there are a lot of details that, of course, we would have to work out. But we could just stagger the time. I mean, thankfully, the preschoolers aren't mandated by period seat time, and so it's not necessary for them to perhaps access the PE class for the full hour. So we could stagger it so that they come in slightly after the bell has rung. It would give the teacher an opportunity to transition from middle school teacher to preschool teacher. We would have to work out the logistics of that.
Okay, and then just thinking this through, will there be overages for some of these teachers or the ability, I'm just throwing out my questions that are popping in my head right now.
We have, in looking at the numbers, we're able to add it just in the specials, right? It wouldn't have any overages. We'd be able to make it work.
Can I expand on your question with the specials? Do they have to be pre-K certified in order to teach them?
So we would have to look into that.
Yeah.
Because preschool is also not mandated to have specials.
Right.
So a lot of those things we would have to work out. Yeah.
So currently, the pre-K classes, do they have specials?
They-
And are they integrated with the
So
elementary classrooms?
the full day
Yeah,
class, they do go to specials.
so the one at Coleman,
The one at Coleman does,
but the central ones do not?
correct.
And they don't have any integration at all with other students at Central right now? Or do they
They do,
participate?
it's different. And their teacher currently does take them to the gym a few times a week to do different activities that would fall under the PE umbrella, or she takes them outside to do things that are very specific under the PE umbrella. And they would do different activities as appropriate with their gen ed peers.
Okay. And then as far as the services, because this is pre-K disabled classes, and then the ABA class, they receive probably OT and PT.
OT, PT, speech, and then our district behaviorist would, of course, she comes up to the middle school, high school anyway, so.
So how does currently that work now with the Coleman and Central? Is that a traveling
No, so
person,
we
or is
have
it housed
related
in?
services housed at, they're either at a designated building, or depending upon their service, they are split between two buildings.
Okay.
So it really wouldn't operate too much.
It's just another, they'd either
It would
have
just be a different, yeah.
another building they'd go to. Okay. And then I just have a question on the funding of this. So I know our capital reserve account is pretty, I don't even know what the word is. Yes,
Funded?
okay, yeah. Very well funded at the moment. So, I'm assuming this 1.3 would come out of the capital reserve account currently. And again, what's the capital reserve? Because I still don't believe the number that we were told. It's too good to be true.
Sorry. I believe it is in the $5+ million range.
Yeah, that's what I
But I
thought.
will send it to you in the morning.
Okay, no, that's fine. I thought it was upwards of close to 6, but,
Yeah, it is pretty close to 6.
yeah. Okay, I think that answers my questions. Thank you.
Ms. Stevenson, go ahead.
It's a wonderful program, and I appreciate all the work that you put into this. And again, it's just some logistic questions that Sharon and Liz have addressed. My concern is the playground area. Right on Harris, it's going to be built, can you just explain a little more in detail so I can try and visualize what it's going to look like? Because play is extremely important for younger children, especially children with disabilities, that we want to make sure they're getting what they deserve.
In terms of the equipment inside the playground, we haven't looked at that yet, so that could be whatever we decide, right? So it could be, if you want to do smaller apparatuses, you could, but you're not required to. So we were thinking just movable, small toys for the students. In terms of the playground shape, when you walk out the second set of doors at the end of the circle, take you towards the middle school hallway, that takes you right down to the little theater. Out there is a little trapezoid section spot. It's inside of the digital marquee, and there we would put a 30 by 30 area that would be obviously fenced in. We were clear with the architect that we would want the brick to match the existing brick of the school, so aesthetically it looks good, and we would do that. That's part of what's in our proposal. I missing anything else with the
No,
playground?
the playground would abut the circle and not Hamilton Avenue, and would be a fair distance off of Harristown Road. If you are familiar, there is a pathway that goes into that main door, so while looking at the school, we would be to the right of that pathway.
I think with Liz, I would like to make an appointment also just to visualize it myself. And then my other question is, have you got any feedback from the staff that this is affecting, or the families? Like, or have any of you spoken to parents? Would they be comfortable bringing their children into the high school, middle school?
So I have not spoken to families yet. Many of our students that we currently are working with actually wouldn't even be part of that program. I've spoken with the teachers, and some of the concerns that I talked about tonight were some of the concerns that they had. Yeah.
I didn't meet they didn't share their name, but at Federated, at the Federated meeting, I just talked about the possibility of the grant. And one of the parents whose child's in one of the central programs was very much in favor of a preschool integrated program, so that her child would be able to work with non-special ed age level peers. So I should have gotten her name. But yeah, she had shared that. I've shared it multiple times throughout all the HSAs and Federated since we applied for it. And I have not gotten any questions from parents per se in general, outside of that one comment and people sharing that they were supportive of it, but nothing that would be outside of that one comment where I was specific about that.
Yeah, and I certainly don't want to speak for parents, but from the parent lens, the parents of students that are in the full-day program, nothing essentially would change for them other than that they have access to gen ed peers, preschool peers. And then for the parents of students in our half-day programs, they're in an integrated classroom with gen ed peers. So,
I mean,
yeah.
there's so many benefits to the program that, you just have to make sure like all bases are covered, and we're trying to think of all the things. It certainly is, it's certainly a worthwhile, but you just want to make sure the logistics work out.
Yeah.
You just created, you guys stop talking because I'm just going to keep coming up with more questions. What about the family, and maybe I am overthinking, but what about the family who has now 2 children at 2 separate schools?
So it's not crazy, but we actually do have families, and we
Right.
work with them. But we currently do. So depending upon wherever our specialized programs are, you could always potentially have that conflict of students in different buildings.
But the special ed students could be bused, which would alleviate, so that would still alleviate the problem, but the students who don't, it's not just the gen ed, it's the special ed kids who may qualify for placement, but not transportation. It really is affecting like the Coleman or the Central, like those 2 schools that do have, like the other ones, yes, do have that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But as was asked, if you've spoken with any families,
So I have not, and specifically to your point and your concern, I would not really be able to do that, simply because I don't know who those families will be, nor will I know what their circumstances with their children will be. But again, and I don't want to overstate it, but we work with those families individually, and we just work through, and yeah.
Just to interject, Ms. Carpella, the answer to your question, currently in the capital reserve is $6.97 million.
Thank you. I knew it was in the sixes.
6.1, okay. Well,
Thank you. That's a very healthy number for us. So I do have another question, and it's really related to the ABA program you have at Coleman, because we have pre-K through 2, and then we have a 3 to 5, right? And are they both at Coleman, or no?
So it's pre-K, full day,
Yes.
and then K to 2, 3 to 5.
So the K to 2 is that's the autism program?
K to 2 and 3 to 5 are the autism
Okay,
programs.
and those 2 classes are at Coleman, so the 3 to
Correct.
5 autism program will remain at Coleman?
Yes.
So
And
tho-
as
yeah.
well as our K to 2 program. our K-2 program, kindergarten.
Oh, just preschool's
Just
going.
preschool,
there
so
will be-
all of preschool will be with preschool.
Right. So that opens up how many, so that would open up one classroom at Central and one at Coleman, right? So what, barring hiring a teacher for a classroom, what are our plans with that space? Do we have any idea?
Well, if you had that space right now, what would the board do? I would assume that you would add 2 more sections, so you have 10 sections across the board in elementary. So that would be the plan. That would be my recommendation, but it's a board decision. But you have outside of your Hamilton Elementary classes where we added the section, as the board is aware, you have classes of 24, 25 kids. So you.
And it's that central class that has the outdoor entrance, right?
Yes,
Along by the library.
correct.
So is there a way for them to get in the building, or they have to walk outside the building to get in?
They have to walk outside.
Yeah, okay. Because I know that's why that was a good space to have a pre-K, because it was not integrated with the classroom. But yeah, anyway,
Just
we'll
have
get
to
there when
walk outside.
we'll cross that bridge, I guess.
Thank you. And I'll provide the perspective of having a child that is currently in pre-K. My daughter wouldn't enroll into kindergarten until next year, and getting the opinion of other parents that are in this age, like have kids in this age group, they're in favor of being able to bring kids into the district a little earlier than, maybe their current options, especially with the potential of before care and after care. And I will note that at Community, their play space is really just right in front of the church building, like the grass, which isn't actually, it isn't cordoned off. So I think this is maybe a plus on that, and appreciate the presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Do you have a question? No? All right. So do we have,
We need to know if we have consensus.
do we have consensus to accept this grant?
I just want to make sure, did we read the fine print of the grant? There's nothing in it that says we have to have an X amount of students for universal pre-K, or this ties us to expanding a universal pre-K program in our district. I just don't want us to start this and then it balloons into something more than what we've intended to do.
So the
And I'm
grant-
not saying that I don't support this program at all. That's not what I'm saying. I just want to make sure we fully understand what we are.
So the goal of Governor
accepting.
Murphy is to have free pre-K for everyone, right, just statewide. So in order to entice people to expand preschool, they offered up this grant. And this is federal dollars, I believe, right, James? It's federal dollars. So it doesn't mean that the board is obligated to offer everyone in Glen Rock preschool, all right? You are obligated to offer or pay for students with disabilities, right, that we educate. But in terms of regular ed students, there's no obligation. But in order to get the grant, you had to expand your current offerings, which is where we were. So when I got here years ago, my thought process in that area was that it was a really good spot before this grant, before we even started the program, before Dr. McKay got here, that was going to be a really good spot for a preschool renovation, and then freeing up space in the elementary schools. But more importantly, just from seeing it as a principal, was the opportunities not only for our littlest students, right, but for the older kids to be able to work with them. It's really great to see in the programs that we can offer. So that was where we were operating from, and then this has come up in conversations before the grant even happened. We've talked about this, and then when we applied for the grant and got it, we are not obligated. So I'm going around about it. We are not obligated in any way, shape, or form to offer preschool to regular ed students by accepting this grant. We're only obligated to do what we said in the grant, was to expand our program to 3 classrooms. And you're limited by sheer numbers in terms of what you would do. And that was it. I don't think in the grant, I mean, this was over a year, I think we applied for it, but I don't think in the grant you were allowed to build from the ground up, if I'm not mistaken. It could be.
That is correct.
Yeah.
It wasn't for new construction.
Yeah, so it was just for renovation, so it really just worked in our favor that we had this big spot and an opportunity, so that, hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. All right. Can we do a straw poll, just so we know that we have consensus for our January meeting, our next meeting? All in favor of accepting the grant? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have unanimous consensus. Thank you.
So this will be on the January 22nd agenda. In the interim, if you want to take a tour, perhaps after the meeting, we're here. We can go right now and get it over with. If I do want to watch the football game, so we get going.
We appreciate it.
We do have to go into close, Dr. Robinson,
Yes.
for a really quick hib.
All right. I need a motion to go into closed session after tonight's meeting to discuss HIB matters. The board will not be returning to public session, and no action will be taken.
Dr. Rob,
All right.
before we close
Yes.
old business, could I just comment on something? Can I bring up something for old business?
Oh, certainly.
Briefly, yeah. So I was contacted by a parent in the community, and I thought it was appropriate to bring back the conversation we had in the fall about robotics that has been part of it. It has nothing to do with anything else we brought up this evening. And I just thought it was worthwhile to share amongst the trustees here that there's an elementary and up to middle school, kind of like a rec league, if you will, of robotics. And it's interesting to see what we're doing at the high school. Obviously, that's it's growing as its own team, its own function. That creates a message out to the community of, hey, this is possible. There's a little bit of press and excitement around it. There's no team sports in the elementary schools, nor are there really going to be in the foreseeable future. But the things that we're doing at those levels are impacting and inspiring the 5, 6, 7, 10-year-olds in the town. I'd love to share the email with everybody after this because it's part of what we do. We have the challenge we're talking about right now of working in one big district with children from ages 3 to 18, and they're doing it themselves, whether we do it or not. So we just have to keep doing it the right way. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. I look forward to reading that email. Okay, so motion to go into closed after tonight's meeting. Ms. Carr, seconded by Ms. Scarpelli. All right. Adjourned, our meeting is adjourned at
Hold on,
a recess. Oh,
we
so,
need to vote on that one. Ms. Calvez?
Yes.
Ms. Carasola? Ms. Carr?
Yeah.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Dr. Robinson?
yes.
Ms. Rendell?
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Keith, can we do our close for 2 minutes, and then you can come in and clean up so we can get going? Thank you.
All right, thank you.